The breaking point. Earth had been part of the Galactic Consortium for just 17 years when everything changed. It wasn't a smooth integration, never had been. Humanity was labeled as primitive, volatile, and unpredictable by the elder species who had ruled interstellar politics for millennia. The Ardani with their crystalline bodies and collective consciousness, the Vexeri with their four-armed forms and technological supremacy, the Drazith whose fungal biology granted them near immortality. Together with 5 other advanced species, they formed the ruling council that dictated the fate of 200 worlds. Earth was meant to be grateful for admission. Instead, humans chafed under growing restrictions. Admiral Helena Reyes stood on the observation deck of Orbital Station Unity, Earth's diplomatic outpost, and the only place in the Sol system where council representatives were permitted to dock. A slender woman with silver-streaked black hair pulled into a tight bun. Her weathered face reflected 27 years of military service. The holographic display before her showed real-time footage from Proxima Centauri, humanity's first and most populated colony. It was burning. "Replay the transmission," she ordered, voice steady despite the rage building inside her. The AI complied. A desperate face appeared. Commander Javier Chen, Proxima's military governor. His face was streaked with blood. "This is Commander Chen to all UNDF units. The consortium fleet arrived without warning. They claim we violated Charter Section 419, unauthorized weapons development. It's a lie. Our research facility was studying medical applications of Vexari biotechnology, all approved through proper channels. They've disabled our defense grid and orbital platforms." There. An explosion rocked the transmission. Chen looked over his shoulder, then back to the camera. "They're bombarding civilian sectors. Repeat, the Council forces are targeting civilian infrastructure. 40,000 confirmed casualties and rising. This isn't enforcement, it's execution. If anyone receives this, tell Earth. Tell them we never." The transmission cut to static. Admiral Rice closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, they held cold determination. "Get me the Joint Chiefs and the Secretary General. Immediately." "Ma'am." Her aide, Lieutenant Kim, hesitated. "The Council Overseer is requesting your presence in the diplomatic chamber. He says it's about regrettable but necessary actions taken at Proxima." Reyes' jaw tightened. "Tell Overseer Varn I'll be there shortly." The diplomatic chamber gleamed with the polished opulence that characterized council architecture. Varn Tileth, the Vexeri overseer assigned to Earth, stood with his 4 arms clasped behind his back. His iridescent scales shimmered under the light, his vertical pupils narrowing as Admiral Rice entered. "Ah, Admiral. Thank you for coming so promptly." His voice carried the melodic lilt common to all Vexeri, making even grave pronouncements sound pleasant. "Explain Proxima," Rice demanded, bypassing protocol entirely. Varn's head tilted, an expression of feigned regret. "A most unfortunate necessity. Your colony was developing prohibited weaponry. The Council voted unanimously for immediate sanction. I'm sure you understand. 40,000 civilians murdered. Children. Families. You call that sanction?" Varn waved a dismissive hand. "Collateral outcomes are regrettable, but were deemed acceptable given the severity of the violation." "There was no violation. You know this. We provided all research data to your inspectors last month." Varn's scales darkened slightly, the Vexeri equivalent of a smile. "The data indicated clear weapons applications. The decision has been made, Admiral. Proxima Centauri is now under direct Council administration. Earth will, of course, be placed under heightened restrictions until a full compliance audit can be completed." "Heightened restrictions?" "Yes. All interstellar travel suspended. Military forces to be reduced by 60%. Resource extraction operations to be supervised by Council monitors. And," he paused, seemingly savoring the moment, "Earth will surrender its provisional Council representation until probationary status is lifted." Reyes felt her nails dig into her palms. And how long will that be? That depends entirely on your cooperation, Admiral. Perhaps 50 of your years, perhaps more. The Council desires only stability. You mean subjugation. Varn's eyes flickered. Be careful, Admiral. Such rhetoric borders on sedition. Reyes stepped closer, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. You just killed 40,000 of our people. This isn't sedition. This is a promise. Earth will not bow. We've faced extinction before your kind ever noticed our planet. We survived ice ages, plagues, and our own destructive tendencies. If you think we'll bend to this, you've gravely misunderstood humanity. Bold words, Varn replied, unimpressed. But the Council has broken civilizations far older and more advanced than yours. Your species is barely out of its evolutionary adolescence. Then perhaps you should have left us alone. Varn's mandibles clicked in amusement. The sanctions take effect immediately. We expect your military to stand down within 12 Earth hours. As Reyes turned to leave, Varn added, we've never lost a disciplinary action, Admiral. Not in 9,000 years. Reyes paused at the door. There's a first time for everything, Overseer. Within 6 hours, Earth's response was in motion. Not the capitulation the Council expected, but Operation Scorched Earth. The contingency plan humanity had quietly developed since their induction into the consortium. Deep beneath the Antarctic ice, in a facility unknown even to most of Earth's government, Admiral Reyes addressed the assembled leadership, military commanders, scientists, and representatives from Earth's most powerful nations. The Council believes we're primitive because we still fight among ourselves, she told them. They see our divisions as weakness. They don't understand that we fight because we care so deeply about ideals, about freedom, about our right to determine our own fate. The room was silent as tactical displays showed Council ships moving throughout the solar system. For 17 years, we've played their game, Reyes continued. We accepted restrictions on our technology, limitations on our expansion. We followed their rules while secretly preparing for this day. They believe they're dealing with a compliant, intimidated species. Today, they learn how wrong they are. Dr. Maya Patel, head of Earth's Clandestine Research Division, stepped forward. A brilliant physicist with an unassuming presence, she had been the architect of humanity's hidden technological advancements. Project Prometheus is ready, she announced. All 17 hidden installations are operational. The quantum entanglement network is stable. General Jackson nodded grimly. And the Ghost Fleet? The ships are armed and crews are boarding as we speak, replied Admiral Kwan. Stealth systems are operational. As far as the Council's sensors are concerned, they don't exist. Reyes surveyed the room. Make no mistake, this is not rebellion. This is survival. The Council has demonstrated their true intentions. They don't want partners, they want subjects. They don't seek peace, they impose control. Today, we show them that humanity will not be another trophy in their collection of conquered worlds. The first strike came 18 hours later, after evacuation protocols had quietly removed essential personnel from vulnerable stations. The Council's massive command carrier in Earth orbit, the Pride of Ardani, detected no threat until the moment 3 Ghost Fleet vessels decloaked mere kilometers from its position. The experimental vessels, sleek, matte black, and powered by technology the Council believed humans incapable of developing, fired specialized EMP weapons that bypassed the carrier's shields. The Pride of Ardani, flagship of the consortium's Earth Enforcement Fleet, went dark. Boarding parties of human special forces, equipped with armor that negated the Ardani's natural electrical defenses, secured the vessel within 20 minutes. Similar strikes occurred simultaneously throughout the solar system. Council monitoring stations went silent. Enforcement vessels found themselves suddenly without power, their crews facing heavily armed human boarding teams. In the Oort cloud, where the Council had positioned their long-range communications relay, a different type of attack unfolded. Human hackers, led by the brilliant twins Amir and Amara Cheng, executed what they called Operation Babel. The virus they planted didn't just disable the relay. It reprogrammed it, sending false all-clear signals to Council headquarters while redirecting actual Council communications to human intelligence centers. On Mars, Council administrators found themselves surrounded by colonists they had dismissed as simple miners and farmers. Colonists who revealed hidden weapons caches and military training. Luna's research installations, ostensibly dedicated to approved scientific pursuits, unveiled defensive systems that locked down all Council facilities. The solar system was secured in less than 24 hours, with minimal casualties on either side. It wasn't a full victory, merely the opening move in what would surely become a prolonged conflict, but it sent an unmistakable message. Admiral Rice stood on the bridge of the captured Pride of Ardani, now temporarily her command center. Overseer Varn had been brought before her, his iridescent scales now dull with shock and fear. "Impossible," he whispered. "Your species doesn't have this technology, these capabilities." "We've had it for years," Rice replied. "While you watched us build primitive ships and stations according to your approved designs, we were developing these in secret. You underestimated us, Overseer. A common mistake when dealing with lesser species, I imagine." "The Council will respond with overwhelming force," Varn warned. "What you've done here is merely delaying the inevitable." "Perhaps," Rice acknowledged. "But you should know that Operation Scorched Earth isn't just about defending our solar system." She nodded to Dr. Patel, who activated a holographic display showing dozens of small, stealthed vessels departing the solar system on trajectories toward various Council worlds. "What are those?" Varn demanded, his composure cracking. "Insurance," Rice replied simply. "Each carries a quantum entangled device. If the Council launches a full-scale attack against Earth, those devices activate. We call it the Samson Protocol. If we fall, we're taking your precious consortium with us." "You're bluffing," Varn hissed. "Your species would never commit such an act. It violates every ethical principle in the galactic community." Rice leaned forward. "You killed 40,000 civilians yesterday, Overseer. You thought that would break us. Instead, it unified us as nothing has in generations. There's an ancient human saying, 'Beware the fury of a patient man.' Humanity has been patient for 17 years. That patience has run out." She straightened up. "We're transmitting our terms to the Council. Full sovereignty for Earth and all human colonies. Reparations for Proxima. A revised consortium charter that eliminates the hierarchical structure that has allowed elder species to dominate newer civilizations. The Council will never agree." "Then we're at an impasse," Rice replied calmly. "Because humanity will never again accept subjugation. We're prepared for a long conflict, Overseer. Are you?" As the captured Overseer was led away, Lieutenant Kim approached. "Admiral, we've intercepted Council communications. They're mobilizing their defense fleets." Rice nodded, unsurprised. "And so it begins. Prepare for Phase 2. The war that would reshape the galaxy had begun. Humanity had been pushed too far, and now the Council would learn why countless human civilizations had risen from the ashes of their own destruction. It wasn't just technology or strategy that made humans dangerous. It was their absolute refusal to surrender. The reckoning. The Galactic Council's response came swiftly and with overwhelming force. Within 3 days of humanity's uprising, a punitive fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. 50 capital ships, 200 support vessels, and thousands of fighter craft, the largest military force assembled in the sector in over a century. Admiral Rice watched the tactical display aboard the retrofitted Pride of Ardani, now renamed Defiance. The Council Armada was precisely what she had expected, a hammer to crush the human resistance in one decisive blow. "They're deploying in standard Vexeri battle formation," observed Captain Nadia Santos, tactical officer and former chess grandmaster. Her dark eyes analyzed the patterns with professional detachment. Central thrust with flanking containment. They expect us to scatter. Reyes nodded. And we'll give them exactly what they expect. At first, the human defense fleet was vastly outnumbered. Even with the captured Council vessels and the Ghost Fleet, Earth could field barely 40 ships capable of engaging the approaching armada. But numbers had never been the foundation of humanity's plan. All vessels, execute Hyper Protocol, Reyes ordered. Across the solar system, human ships began what appeared to be a disorganized retreat, scattering in different directions, some appearing to flee while others moved into seemingly random defensive positions. To the Council fleet, it looked like panic. Admiral Zex Terrell, Supreme Commander of the Council Punitive Force, observed the human movements with satisfaction. A veteran of 17 planetary subjugations, the four-eyed Drozoth military leader saw nothing unexpected in the humans' response. Predictable, he rumbled to his command staff. They lash out with initial success, but lack the discipline for sustained resistance. Press the advantage. Full advance. The Council fleet surged forward, breaking into pursuit groups to chase down the scattered human vessels. They penetrated deeper into the solar system, past the orbit of Neptune, then Uranus. That's when the trap was sprung. Throughout the Kuiper Belt, hidden installations activated. Not military bases, they would have been detected long ago, but automated mining operations permitted under the Consortium Charter. Hundreds of these facilities, ostensibly extracting minerals from asteroids and planetoids, suddenly revealed their true purpose. Quantum entanglement signals triggered the transformation of these innocuous industrial platforms. Mining lasers reconfigured into defensive arrays, excavation explosives converted to military-grade weapons, transport drones became attack craft. The pursuing Council vessels suddenly found themselves surrounded by unexpected firepower emerging from what had appeared to be harmless commercial operations. Simultaneously, the retreating human ships executed perfectly coordinated maneuvers, regrouping into striking formations that cut through the now extended Council fleet. The Ghost Fleet vessels, with their superior stealth technology, appeared without warning behind enemy lines, targeting command and control ships. On the Defiance, Admiral Reyes watched as the Council's carefully organized formation disintegrated into chaos. Phase 1 complete, she announced. Begin Phase 2. Lieutenant Kim's hands flew over his console, activating Project Prometheus. Deep beneath the surfaces of Mars, Venus, and several major moons, enormous energy signatures suddenly appeared on Council sensors. The quantum entanglement network Dr. Patel had developed allowed these installations to coordinate their actions with perfect synchronization, despite the vast distances between them. Massive gravity wells materialized at strategic points throughout the battlefield. Artificial singularities that disrupted the Council fleet's formation and disabled their faster-than-light capabilities. The technology was well beyond what the Council believed humans possessed, because humans hadn't developed it alone. The Exerethi contingent is confirming success, reported Communications Officer Rivera. All gravity generators functioning at optimal levels. The Exerethi, a species the Council had subjugated centuries ago and relegated to servant status, had been quiet allies of humanity for years. Their theoretical knowledge of gravitational manipulation, combined with human innovation, had produced weapons the Council had never encountered. Admiral Zex Terrell's flagship rocked as nearby vessels were pulled into distorted spacetime. "Impossible," he roared. "The humans can't have this technology. Check for other species' signatures." "No other signatures detected, Admiral," his science officer reported, mandibles clicking anxiously. "These appear to be human constructs, but incorporating principles we've only seen in theoretical research." Zex Terrell's secondary eyes narrowed. "We've been deceived. The humans have been developing prohibited technologies for years. They're more dangerous than the Council assessed." "Admiral," his communications officer interrupted, "we're receiving a transmission from the human command vessel." Admiral Reyes' face appeared on the Council flagship's main screen. She looked calm, determined, not the desperate resistance leader Zex Terrell had expected. Admiral Zex Terrell, she began, your fleet is currently trapped by our gravity well network. Your FTL capabilities are neutralized, and your formation has been compromised. We could continue this battle, but I'm offering you an alternative. Zex Terrell's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of agitation among the Drazith. You dare offer terms? The Council does not negotiate with rebellious worlds. This isn't a negotiation, Rise replied evenly. It's a choice. You can order your fleet to stand down and agree to an immediate ceasefire, or we can demonstrate the full capabilities of our defense systems. I don't think you want the latter. Your technology is impressive, human, but ultimately futile. Even if you destroy this fleet, the Council will send another and another. You cannot stand against the combined might of 8 advanced civilizations. Reyes's expression didn't change. We anticipated that response. Lieutenant Kim, activate the diplomatic package. The screens on the Council flagship suddenly flickered, displaying images from across the galaxy. Council worlds where the small, stealthed vessels Reyes had mentioned earlier had arrived at their destinations. On Ardeni Prime, on Vexari, on Drazith, and on every homeworld of the 8 Council species, quantum-entangled devices had been positioned near critical infrastructure. As we speak, Reyes continued, representatives of Earth are meeting with leaders from 73 worlds that have suffered under Council dominance. Many have already pledged support to our cause. This isn't just humanity's stand, Admiral. This is the beginning of a galactic reformation. For the first time in his 300-year military career, Admiral Zex Terrell felt uncertainty. What are your terms? Immediate cessation of hostilities, full sovereignty for Earth and all human colonies, an emergency session of the full consortium, not just the Council, to revise the Charter, and reparations for Proxima Centauri. The Council will never. The Council no longer dictates terms, Rise interrupted. Or would you prefer we demonstrate what happens when we activate the devices we've placed on your homeworlds? The silence stretched for several seconds before Zex Terrell spoke again. I will communicate your proposal to the Council, but I cannot authorize such terms without their approval. You have 6 hours, Admiral. After that, we proceed with the next phase of our defense. When the transmission ended, the Council flagship erupted into frantic activity. Communications officers struggled to contact their homeworlds, only to find their long-range systems mysteriously compromised. Tactical officers reassessed the battlefield, recognizing the increasingly precarious position of their fleet. On the Defiance, Admiral Reyes turned to Dr. Patel. Will they call our bluff? The scientist shrugged. It's only partially a bluff. The devices on their homeworlds are real, though not nearly as destructive as we've implied. They're primarily information weapons, designed to disrupt their societies by revealing centuries of Council secrets to their populations. Sometimes the truth is more devastating than any bomb, Rise noted. 5 hours and 43 minutes later, the Council fleet began powering down weapons systems. Admiral Zex Terrell requested a direct meeting with Admiral Reyes. Aboard the neutral ground of Titan Station, representatives from both sides gathered. The Council delegation entered with rigid formality, their traditional superiority now tempered by uncertainty. Admiral Zex Terrell led them, flanked by ambassadors from each Council species. Admiral Reyes entered with her own delegation, not just military officers, but scientists, diplomats, and most surprisingly, representatives from 12 non-Council species who had arrived through concealed jump points. The Council has authorized me to negotiate a temporary ceasefire, Zex Terrell announced without preamble. We are prepared to discuss revised terms for Earth's status within the consortium. That's not enough, Rise replied. The fundamental structure of the consortium must change. No more hierarchical council dictating to lesser species. No more technological suppression. No more punitive actions without due process. Vexlor, the Ardani ambassador, vibrated with indignation, the crystalline equivalent of a scoff. You would dismantle systems that have maintained galactic peace for millennia based on one unfortunate incident. A tall, mushroom-like being stepped forward from the human delegation, ambassador to Krell of the Myconids, a species that had been members of the consortium for 6,000 years, yet never achieved council status. Unfortunate incident. Tukrell's voice resonated with ancient patience and new resolve. My civilization has documented 712 unfortunate incidents over our 6 millennia of membership. Entire colony worlds sanctioned for minor infractions. Technologies confiscated. Resources appropriated. The Council calls it peace. The rest of us recognize it as controlled subjugation. One by one, representatives from other species added their testimonies. The Exarithi, whose gravitational theories had been stolen by the Vexari. The Prometheans, whose world had been quarantined for developing cognitive enhancement technology. The Terulians, the Ganteri, the Volith, each with their own grievances against council rule. As the testimonies continued, the council representatives grew increasingly uncomfortable. What they had dismissed as a human rebellion was revealing itself as something far more significant. A coordinated uprising of dozens of oppressed civilizations, with humanity serving as the catalyst. We need not be enemies, Admiral Reyes finally said into the silence that followed. Earth doesn't seek to destroy the consortium. We want to transform it into what it always claimed to be, a true cooperative of civilizations working together as equals. The elder species have much to teach us, but perhaps you also have things to learn from those you've dismissed as primitive or unworthy. After 3 days of intense negotiations, a framework emerged. The Council would be disbanded and replaced with a representative assembly where all member civilizations would have equal standing. Technology sharing would be encouraged rather than restricted. A new charter would emphasize cooperation over control. As Admiral Reyes signed the preliminary agreement on behalf of Earth, she reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment. It had taken the tragedy of Proxima to unite humanity. It had taken humanity's stand to unite the oppressed species of the galaxy. And now, perhaps, a new era could begin. This is only the beginning, she told her staff as they prepared to return to Earth. Changing the structure is one thing. Changing millennia of ingrained attitudes will take much longer. Captain Santos smiled. Good thing humans are stubborn. Then, it's not just stubbornness, Reyes replied, looking out at the stars. It's hope. Throughout our history, no matter how dark things became, humans never stopped believing tomorrow could be better than today. That's what the Council never understood about us. They saw our conflicts and divisions as weakness. They never realized those were the forge that tempered our resolve. As news of the agreement spread across Earth and its colonies, celebrations erupted. The stars, once symbols of restriction and council dominance, now represented possibility. Humanity had been pushed to the breaking point, and in breaking, had remade not just themselves but the galaxy. The consortium would rise again, not as an instrument of control, but as the true cooperative it was always meant to be. And humanity, the upstart species that refused to bow, would help lead the way.